Hey guys, welcome back. We have the announcement for the upcoming section pack, Outlaws from the Inferno. Such a strange name, but I guess it fits concerning the fact that there are Inferno cards as well as the Tenpai, Transcendent, and the Flame Tongue, the Burning Blade, whatever this is actually here a fire monsters. We have Sangen Summoning at 2. This was very interesting, and I want to react to a video from Master Duel Central saying new tier 1 incoming post Tenpai ranked tier list prediction. This is quite nice. We will go ahead and watch this at 1.5 speed here. Obviously, this comes on Thursday, and let's see what his opinion on this matter is.
2 weeks right into a new format, way after the new cards came out. Most people already have made their tier list by then. Actually, I noticed a lot of people make their tier list for a format before the format has even started, and that's fine. A lot of people love to watch that, and I think that's cool. And in fact, I'm like, why not throw my hat in the ring? Why not, you know, get a little double dip? Why not double dip in the tier list meta a little bit here?
Always double
so I
dip.
decided I would make a prediction tier list. Now, I'm not going to be doing this for every format, but we are going to be getting...
Actually, a cool idea. Let me know in the comments whether you think I should do this as well in the future. And yeah, he is right. For this format, it especially makes sense because of Tenpai.
Very soon in Master Duel, based on some leaks from Master Duel meta, and that would be like in like 2 days or something at the time of recording this video. So with Tenpai coming very close, I think the format is going to change so much that it's actually pretty interesting to do a prediction tier list right now. Obviously, I wouldn't do this if, like, you know, the new cards we were getting was, I don't know, like Crash Bug support. But Tenpai is going to make a pretty big splash, so I think it's worth a discussion.
What
like,
is
2 weeks
Crash
into the
Bug?
new format, after we already got the cards and everything, and I feel like I have a better idea of the format, then I'll do like my official tier list, you know, for the month. Instead, this is more so going to be talking about the decks I think are interesting. So I'm not going to be putting as many decks in this prediction tier list because there's a lot of decks that I think are just going to be staying where they are, you know, not moving, and I don't think those are that interesting to talk about. I'll still talk about some of them, but I'm more so interested in talking about what's going to be changing in Master Duel, because it is going to be a pretty big switch up with Tenpai coming very soon. So I think it's just like a perfect opportunity to do like a prediction tier list. But before we get into that, I do need to shout out the sponsor for this video. And don't worry, this is not some weird mobile game that's trying to nickel and dime you.
But it is a weird mobile game, right?
If you like card games or roguelikes, I really think it's a no-brainer. You should at least try the demo and definitely wishlist the game on Steam. The game and demo are both going to be available on Steam, and of course, I left the link in the description. So make sure to wishlist the game before its full release. Again, a huge thank you to Mino Games and Dimensionals for Dimensionals. That genuinely a fun game. I might have accidentally shilled harder than they asked me to. I wasn't even lying. That's
by the way, this is tier 1 up here, right?
In the comments if you want. I wasn't lying. It's a fun game, dude. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's get into this tier list here. And, you know, as I like to do with this, I don't like beating around the bush, even though we just did. Tenpai. I think Tenpai on release is the best deck in the game. I think it's the best deck in the game. Now, unfortunately, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is 2 a.m., 2 days before the cards come out in Master Duel. And normally, we would have already had the rarities confirmed for the upcoming pack in Master Duel. So I'm a bit surprised that we don't. So yeah, we don't know if we're going to get an emergency ban list for this deck. You know, it's possible that we would get an emergency ban list that puts the field spell at 1. You know, a lot of people are predicting that. Personally, I'm genuinely hoping that it comes out unhit. I know a lot of people thought I was trolling in my last video. And I was having a little bit of fun with that video. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was kind of trolling a little bit, but I wasn't joking. I wasn't like being sarcastic to that extent. Like I do genuinely think this deck should just come out unhit, and I hope it stays unhit for like 2 years. I am so happy as a streamer, as a guy who's streaming Master Duel, to have a deck where I can just jump into a ladder and just, you know, pick going second, play some Tetris, read the chat. Okay, what I
yeah, this is a good point he makes. I do not think that this should be 2 years at unhit, and I think it's nice that they put this to 2 in the beginning. They could definitely have put this at 1. This would have been totally okay. This will be at 1 at some point. I will close this window now. This will be at 1 at some point for sure. An unhit would have been too much in my opinion. I really like the hit on the field spell to 2. Honestly, this will still be the strongest deck in the game. I totally agree with him. Then again, Duel is not the greatest matchup for Tenpai. We will have to see. And yeah, I do understand this point as the streamer point, I will call it, because I can just go at this. The cool thing at Tenpai is I can just play this a bit brain dead like, right? I don't need to combo a lot. I will obviously make a combo guide for the video if there is one. Basically, it's not a combo deck, but I will explain to you how this works. But yeah, I can chill. I can play Tenpai. It's easy. It's low effort. It's low maintenance. And as a streamer with a chat, definitely makes sense to like Tenpai.
About Tenpai is really it's evening the playing field, right? Because it's like, you know, when we're playing Tenpai, we're all Jesse Cotton. You know, we're all Josh Wishman.
No.
This is a true communist deck. It levels the playing field for everyone, and I'm very, very happy that I'll be carried by a deck on stream. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I don't know.
There is definitely a skill ceiling to Tenpai. There is a skilled play and unskilled play, but not to the degree that other decks have it. That needs to be said.
I mean, I know I sound like I'm being.
The thing is that you are playing either a lot of hand traps or a lot of board breakers. I think the hand trap approach is way better because if they let you go first, which will probably happen a lot, then it's way better to have hand traps than it is to have board breakers. And if you are playing hand traps, then the skill comes from the fact that you need to understand where to hand trap your opponent, which means you need to understand all the other decks, which makes Tenpai not like an unskilled deck to play, but not because of the Tenpai engine itself. That's pretty easy, but because of the hand traps, right?
Sarcastic. I am not. I mean, I can't wait for this deck to come out. I can't wait. I'm going to be the toxic one with this one. I'm going to be the guy.
Same.
I'm going to be the asshole. and that's okay.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I do think that this deck, just the fact that it can run so many board breakers, that it can run so many hand traps, that it needs so little to get going, that it can play under shifter, that it has this insane swarm ability. The fact that it can put up, I think it's like
20, it can play under shifter, but then again, killing under shifter is not that easy for Tenpai. That needs to be said.
24 or 26,000 damage in one turn, pretty freaking easily. Not to mention that your
36,000
field spell is a misc. Like your field spell makes all your monsters unaffected on the field. And then during the battle phase, like you get to just quick synchro, not once per turn, multiple times. It's, yeah, I think this deck is crazy. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
There's a line, and I will show you this, where you are basically unaffected in main phase 1, and then you are unaffected in battle phase from everything. There's a line that you can go for if you have the right cards, and that's not hard to come by.
And I do genuinely think in a best of one,
maybe people will start playing Cosmic Cyclones in their main deck, because if you go first, if Tenpai lets you go first, you could just set Cosmic Cyclones, and then, yeah. And then play them, basically. You could also play Cosmic Cyclones in Tenpai. I guess this would be a kind of a nice board breaker, getting rid of the field spell. Then again, it's not that important. But yeah, you could play Cosmic Cyclone in the main deck against Tenpai.
One format, a deck that's this good at going second is going to be the best deck in the format, unless they hit it tremendously with some kind of emergency ban list. And even then, if they did something like field spell to 1, I think this deck is still tier 1. I think it's just that it might not be alone, because genuinely, I don't think I'm putting any other deck in tier 1 for this format. And again, this is just a prediction list, so I might be wrong, right? Like, because again, this is like a prediction tier list of what I think is going to happen with the format with these cards coming out. I don't think I'm really going to be wanting to put any deck other than Tenpai at tier 1. My main reason for that is just because I feel like going second is just going to be the best, and there's going to be a bunch of different going first decks that have a pretty good matchup.
This will be very, very interesting. This is a very interesting format because of Tenpai doing it. I can understand the argument of not putting anything there. You can definitely support that.
That all, if they get their full setup going first, will kind of win that matchup, unless Tenpai draws the nuts. Like in some matchups, it's gonna be unless you draw Droplet, or if you draw Red Reboot, you're gonna win with Tenpai. You know, since you're gonna be going second with Tenpai, I just feel like a lot of the decks that want to go first are just kind of, it feels like they might end up being not necessarily on even footing, but not like good enough to warrant being in tier 1. I think the format is gonna be warped around Tenpai for a bit, unless like this deck is hit to hell, and I really don't think that's gonna happen. I'm hoping it isn't.
At some point it will.
But anyway, so
at some point it will. We have seen this in the OCG field spell to 1, and it's also the Pydra. No, not the Pydra. The Chandra to 1. If this happens in Master Duel, and it will at some point, then the deck is not as strong anymore.
That's why I'm not putting anything next to
But this deck will also be stronger. Firstly, it's stronger in OCG and in Master Duel because of the Max C, because you always go second. And then if the Mulch Army cards come out, this will gain another boost. So yeah, we will have this around for some time. That's for sure.
Yubel here.
I
realized Yubel, they got hit tremendously on the last tier list. I mean, might not seem like that much, but they don't have Fiendsmith yet. They don't have Varudris yet, like that Omni Negate rank 10. So really, Yubel has 2 Phantom. They lost their Ibli.
Man, my camera always like autofocusing.
You know, be more of a threat to a deck like Tenpai. Tenpai runs a bunch of board breakers. And in fact, while we're having this conversation, I'm just going to show you what I think is the top of tier 2. So we have Snake Eyes Fire King and Yubel. I think Snake Eyes Fire King plays better technically into Tenpai. Now, to be fair, if Tenpai draws...
No, Yubel plays better into Tenpai.
Pause D-Shifter, this deck totally dies. I thought Yubel I was going to put above here, because Yubel has some good things going for it when it comes to Tenpai. It's just the fact that without the Fiendsmith engine, and with you know the hits that Yubel took, the fact that we don't have the win for free button with Ibli anymore, I feel like Yubel is going to be in a weird spot. Yubel does not like board breakers. You know, just one Lightning Storm, just clearing the Yubel back row, honestly, is going to do...
You play this with hand traps. You play this, I call this, you play this with hand traps, not with board breakers.
Probably enough for Tenpai to win, in my opinion. Genuinely, I don't think the on-field presence of Yubel is going to be really enough. I mean, usually they don't really set up spell and trap negates. Maybe they'll find a way to do that until they have Varudris. At least they don't really have a way to do that. If we do get Varudris in the new set, I would put Yubel above Snake Eyes Fire King. But if we don't, which I don't think we will, because it hasn't been leaked as far as I can tell, it's going to be under here. I'm going to put this one above. I mean, Fire King, Snake Eyes, you know, has a bunch of removal cards and stuff like that they can set up to easily like pop the field spell. For example, Ponix can search a removal spell. I forget the name of it, but it's a flash spell that pops, right? Ponix can search that mid combo. I'm not even going to put other versions of Snake Eyes.
Yeah, but Ponix normally searches the island, so that does not really work, right?
On the list, keep in mind, Poplar went to 1. This deck has taken so many consistency hits. Kyrian did go to 2, but I still think now with how many consistency hits the Snake Eyes engine took, I think you're going to be seeing people really just sticking to the Fire King variant, just so you know you have like that extra consistency from the Fire King engine, especially with Poplar to 1. A Pokemon trainer in my Discord pointed out to me that in the graveyard now, when you go Original Sinful Spoils, since you can't search Poplar, you're either going to want to search a leftover Oak if you didn't use it in your turn 1 combo, or you're most likely going to be searching a Ponix on turn 3 now with the graveyard effect of Original Sinful Spoils. And yeah, because of that, I do think the Snake Eyes Fire King variant is going to be...
Yeah, you search a Ponix then on turn 3, but then it's too late for like the destruction of the field spell of Tenpai, so it doesn't make any difference. I think that Duel is better here in this Tenpai meta, just because of the Of the, damn it. Firstly, of the Yubel monsters, which you need your Samurai Destroyer and Tenpai 4 to get over them. And then also because of Nightmare Pain, yeah.
Be pretty much probably what you want to play for Snake Eyes. So this deck having Graveyard setup helps it tremendously. Being able to pop the field spell very easily, either with the effect of Kirin or with the flash spell, like I said, is going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I mean, activating the Garunix from the graveyard, getting the Garunix ready. But I mean, you have to have a Kirin in hand, and it is at 2 now. So then you have to basically wait for your opponent to give you the opportunity to Promethean Princess. So yeah, of course, if you have a Kirin in hand and the Garunix in the graveyard, then you can at any point pop the field spell. That's true. But then again, you will not have this card, the Kirin, in the hand all the time.
To deal with Tenpai, because that field spell is a real threat. You really need to be able to deal with the Tenpai field spell, since it is a misc effect and it's also a Rhoda. It also, obviously, both of these decks can play through a ton of hand traps.
The other point is that the field spell also boosts the attack of Dragon Monster, doubles it. So the Trident Dragon becomes way more dangerous with the field spell up. So this is also why you want to destroy the card.
Tenpai is most likely going to be running a good amount of hand traps and a good amount of board breakers. I feel like this deck plays better into board
hand traps.
Board breakers. Yubel isn't necessarily bad into board breakers. Obviously, if you pop their monsters, they can still do things. So I don't think this deck becomes bad. You know, this is just a prediction tier list, but I do feel like Snake Eyes Fire King is probably going to look a little bit better than Yubel. And honestly, Yubel might even be a little bit too high here, but you know, we'll leave that as is for now. And next up, I guess we can do one of the new decks that's coming to the game here. Goblin Bikers.
Trash.
It's like a pretty mid, like rank 3 deck.
Say that.
I mean, I'm going to put it in Rogue, but even that's kind of being generous. Like, I'm not even convinced this is Rogue. I don't even know what Rogue is going to feel like in this format with Tenpai being so dominant. I guess Rogue, what it's really going to mean for this format is when you get established turn 1, do you beat Tenpai? And if someone makes you go second, you know, because you might be used to going first if there's really a lot of people playing Tenpai. If someone makes you go second, can you do enough to like get into these going first decks that set up like a really insane board? And you know, from what I've seen from Goblin Bikers, going second seems kind of rough depending on the hand. And going first, like, yeah, the combo is really, really good. The removal is really solid, all that stuff. But it seems pretty normal, summon reliant. Now, I don't have the most experience with this deck, but I did do more research on the deck afterwards just to get a better idea.
The interruptions from Goblin Biker are also not that great into Tenpai, unfortunately.
A better sense of what the deck does. And from what I can tell,
in my opinion,
pretty fragile, and honestly, probably would need just some better...
And one hand trap can be enough. If you hand trap the Gabonga with like an Imperm, this can be enough to stop, and you will have a lot of hand traps. Also, the Graveyard thing isn't great for Goblin Bikers. The Dimensional Shifter Graveyard Banishing isn't great.
Like, you know, if you're running 3 copies of a Tour Guide from the Underworld in your deck in 2024, you know, it's the end of 2024. You're running Tour Guide. Like, that says a lot if you have to run Tour Guide in main deck. I'm just saying. So yeah, I'm not really feeling this deck. I don't think if I put it Rogue, it's just to be nice. I'm honestly not convinced it stays Rogue because I'm really not convinced this deck is better than Memento, and I don't even put Memento in Rogue normally. But yeah, so Goblin Bikers, maybe I'm underestimating them. I'm giving them a chance. I'm going to put them in Rogue on my prediction list, and I'll revisit that
Rogue is fine,
2 weeks later when we do the actual tier list. But let's move on here. Let's move on. We've yapped enough about the Goblin Bikers. This is not even really on the tier list, I don't think, like Stun. And the thing about Stun... Okay, so obviously Stun got tremendously hit, right? Like with Jaugen getting banned and Fossil Dyna going to 1, Stun is going to be having to run a lot of barrier statues. That's why I replaced the image of Fossil Dyna with an image of a barrier statue this time around, right? And yeah, I mean, barrier statues, they can be good sometimes, but they're very situational. It's very hard to pick the proper barrier statues. No one's going to want to run the fire one when you have freaking Tenpai running around, right? So you're going to have to draw one of the better statues. And the thing is, these Stun decks, they all lose to board breakers pretty hard, which are going to be super popular with Tenpai running around.
Hand traps.
Not to mention, not only does it lose really hard to board breakers, but a lot of decks like it lose to board breakers, and they all want to run Shifter, and Shifter doesn't affect this. So, like, I'm putting Stun here, but even though I didn't include them on the list, you can include Kashtira with Stun, you can include Floowandereeze, like all those decks that are trying to basically Dimensional Fissure the opponent on turn 1, as well as set up like other potential stun effects, are usually pretty damn weak to board breakers, and activating D-Shifter is just not...
Hand traps.
Going to be doing anything for you against this deck. This deck literally runs D-Shifter. Actually, the fact that it runs D-Shifter makes me kind of want to put these lower, but it's going to be such a weird format. So, you know, we're doing a prediction list here. We'll see what happens. I can't.
Yeah, the thing with the D-Shifter is also that if a lot of people are running Tenpai, and this will be the case, then at some point as a Tenpai player, you will have to put out your D-Shifters, because why would you play them? Then you can also play more, I don't know, Ghost Ogres or Cosmic Cyclones or whatever, because why would you play a D-Shifter against your Tenpai opponent?
Can't wait to read people's takes in the comments, though. Another thing I just want to mention here.
Then again, if your Tenpai opponent lets you go first and you have a D-Shifter, that's actually not that bad, because you can just D-Shifter on your first turn. That doesn't really affect you at the first turn, where the D-Shifter negatively affects you as a Tenpai player is on your second turn if you want to kill. And then on your first turn, the Dimensional Shifter is active, which you don't really care about. You just make your Hieratic Seals, and then you pass over to your opponent, and he has to kill you under Dimension Shifter with the Seals up, and this is very, very hard to do. So you might not want to put this out now that I think about this.
This is not even a deck,
and
really?
It's okay with the Stun here. I would put this in Rogue, I guess.
So I'm just going to put it in the I don't know tier. Banshee over here. This is a generic rank 4. Banshee can search a Nemesis flag, which can then search a...
What are these decks? Banshee deck and Protoss deck?
Protoss,
or are we talking ritual beasts?
Your deck, you summon the flag searches Protoss, and then Protoss can pop fire monsters on the field, which would be obviously the Banshee over here is fire, right? So Protoss can declare fire, and this is going to beat Tenpai. Technically, any deck that you have that even if it's not on this tier list, if you have a deck that can easily make like a generic rank 4, like in the middle or the end of its combo, I'm thinking of a lot of decks. Like I think like Dinos can do it, probably Super Heavy Samurai could do it. You know, like just those are some random examples. But I'm just, you know, I'm just saying like random decks that can just like throw down a rank 4 for free basically pretty easily. You're probably going to want to run this. The reason for that is like, yeah, just guessing fire might not be the best if you're picking first, right? But keep in mind, a lot of the time, if you lose a coin flip and your opponent makes you go first, it's going to be extremely likely, like 90% minimum likely that they're playing Tenpai.
Yeah.
So that's like pretty good knowledge to have, right? If
once again, this will be so fun playing on the ladder. I'm so ready.
You have this option in your deck of just
this will
making
be
a rank
chaos.
4 Protoss declaring fire. That's going to be pretty crazy if you already know your opponent's on Tenpai just from them basically making you go first. Even if you just shotgun it, like if you're going first and you just shotgun it, you might accidentally hit a Snake Eyes deck, right? So just shotgunning fire on Protoss is not even that bad. Obviously, if you go first and you chose to go first, you know, your opponent didn't make you go first, you won the coin flip and you shotgun this and then they're playing Yubel, you kind of have to make sure that the rest of your board is, you know, good enough that you can shotgun fire with this little Banshee engine here and still be able to have enough interruption to stop like a Yubel player, for example. I don't think that should be too hard, but you know, you do have to be careful about that. Still, I think this engine is going to be probably a must play for any deck that can make an easy rank 4. So I didn't want to mention it, even though it's not really a deck. I just think being able to run this engine is going to make your deck a bit better on the tier list. Like for example, Super Heavy Samurai might go up a little bit just because it can make this for basically free super easily mid combo. So I might put them in Rogue this time around instead of just...
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that you want to play this package. I get the argument. I don't think that you want to play this package in like any deck. Super Heavy Samurai, if Super Heavy Samurai makes it its normal end board, then they have enough negates to stop Tenpai. Tenpai is not like, so don't understand this wrong. Tenpai is not like, oh, you will lose to this every time because they have 4 board breakers and then the one starter card that kills you. This is not, they can also brick, they can also draw bad. And you can definitely going first establish a board that Tenpai cannot break, right? I don't think that you want to go this route here, especially because it's just so random. I've talked about, or I will talk about this in the Spiritual Ritual Beast guide that will come out tomorrow, where I basically say go make a Thunder Dragon Colossus and not like the Protoss, because you will have to guess what you are playing against, either Yubel or like Fire King. Then again, the argument is very lit that if your opponent lets you go first, you can assume that he is like Tenpai, and then you should go for the Protoss. So I guess in Ritual Beast, Spiritual Beast, where you normally play this package here, you should play both Dragon Colossus and Protoss.
Not on the list. But anyway, let's move on. Finally, we've talked about that a lot now. Let's talk about another tier 2 deck. Yeah, I don't really like Ritual Beast, but Ritual Beast is most likely going to be quite good. In fact, you know, I think it might even be, you know, it might even be a bit higher than this. My thing about Ritual Beast, it's not going to be super good at going second. I also want to mention, I'm not super knowledgeable on Ritual Beast because I don't like the deck.
Normally I like his takes, but up to this point...
So most of the information I'm giving you here is by talking to people in my Discord that have played the deck or do know the deck really well. Specifically, Pitasovs in my Discord is always a huge help. He plays a lot of tournaments and stuff. So I'm mostly relying on his info for Ritual Beast because, again, I'm not really labbing this deck. I don't like this deck at all. So, but basically, the deck
I think it's
plays
cool
through a lot of interruptions really, really well. It plays into Shifter better than these 2 decks, which is a reason that I'm like, is it actually? You know what I mean? Is it actually?
True.
Is it actually? You know what I'm saying? That's why I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, yo, low key, being able to play into Shifter is going to be a pretty big deal. So I think Ritual...
This deck is so unbelievably bad into firstly Maxi. This is just the combo deck that combos so heavily. Maxi kills this and Nibiru kills this super hard. And yeah, it's true. Against like these other hand traps like Imperms and stuff like this, they can play through this. But Nibiru and Maxi kills this. And you will play Nibiru in your Temper Dragon, I think. They want to go on to the Protoss or the Colossus and you can just Nibiru at any point. This deck is like, I would put this like tier 3. This is not as bad as Goblin Biker, but definitely not as good as these.
Ritual Beast is going to be really, really good for that. The board it sets up has insane interruption. It can easily set up the Protoss with the Banshee line that I just mentioned, which is why I mentioned it before talking about this deck.
Easily.
It can easily set that up and have enough interruption to stop a deck that's not Tenpai. So, for example, you can set up the Protoss, shotgun fire.
But yeah, they can play by the Undershifter. That's a good point, yeah.
And then you find out you're playing against Yubel. And it's like,
3.
Well, it's fine. You know, I have a couple of Omni negates. You know, I have IP into SP and different things like that.
And also, this has to be mentioned, this is a super complicated deck. There are so many combo lines you have to learn. You will see this in the combo video I bring out tomorrow, where I show you a basic combo line and then refer to a different video because I cannot teach you all the combo lines. So the average player will have a hard time with this deck because it is so difficult.
You definitely have more than enough bases covered to deal with this. Not to mention the Fire Lock does stop your opponent from summoning Shavarva, so that does hurt you. Like it hurts it in a way because it stops them from getting into some of their Unchained plays. It doesn't stop the Unchained engine completely, but it does do a little bit.
Okay, calling fire against yeah, okay, it stops Shavara, but that is definitely not impactful at all.
Not terrible. Maybe low key. Okay. Am I crazy enough to do that? Yo, it's my prediction tier list. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
go for it.
I think Ritual Beast is gonna be better than Yubel.
It's yours. You have to do it.
Oh my god, that sounds so weird. The thing is, Yubel's way better than this at going second.
He notices that it sounds weird because it is weird and wrong.
My big thing right now is
it's his list though.
Yeah, normally in a best of one format, I really value being good at going second, but this is the format where people are going to be making you go first the most often. So a deck that really feels like consistent and plays well into
good point. This is a good point. This deck wants to go first, definitely. Doesn't want to go second.
Shifter and plays well through interruption and can just like maybe it doesn't go that good going.
I'm so interested in how many people will be on Tenpai. Will everybody play Tenpai and then we play these Tenpai mirrors, which are actually quite fun. They are fun. Don't get me wrong. This will be so. This will be so fun.
Second, but it goes really well going first. This is the format for a deck like that. You know what I mean? When you have Tenpai roaming around, making you go first, and Tenpai is going to be really easy to play. I'm sure a ton of people are going to be picking it up. And so I think it's going to be a super popular deck. So I think a deck like Ritual Beast might be really well situated. Now, I might be overrating it just based on the way Pit to Solve was rating the deck to me and the way he was talking about it. So, you know, maybe I'm tripping. I could see it. I don't know. I feel like Yubel got hurt a lot in that last ban list. Like a lot more than people are giving it credit for. Let's do something. Let's do something a little different here. Centurion. So Centurion. On my last tier list, I put at the top of tier 3 because I thought it was a really, really good deck. And I thought a lot of people were underestimating Centurion. Now, unfortunately, I think with Tenpai, Centurion goes back down to Rogue. I think it's a bit too mid-rangey, you know, to really be dealing with something with this many board breakers that's this explosive.
I can see
with
this.
That many hand traps that can win the game that easily. That can literally, like, there's just so much going on with this deck. It's super, super easy to, like, force out the Blazer with just your field spell, even if you didn't draw your board breakers. You know, so I just feel like there's a lot of things that are going to make it rough for Centurion.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, the Blazer is nice, the Cosmic Blazer is nice in a grind game, which you will not have against Tenpai.
In the upcoming format. I just don't think it's the most well-situated deck to play.
And then with all these hand traps, you normally will be able to stop Centurion.
The Tenpai, unfortunately. So I'm actually switching spots between two decks here. We're going to have top of Rogue Voiceless now moving on up here to top of tier 3. I think Voiceless gets a lot better in Tenpai format because I think Voiceless is really well equipped specifically for the Tenpai matchup. For example,
somehow.
If you set up your trap card can easily deal with the field spell. You can pop the field spell when it tries to search, and so that's going to stop your opponent from searching. And then you also have your spell negate monster, which summons a meteor burst from your extra deck, and then meteor burst is going to turn off monster effects during the battle phase. So that means that you can essentially turn off Tenpai during the battle phase using that. Then you obviously have your Omni Negate on Skull Guardian, which depending on the situation, you know, if you can hold it, you could potentially negate Chundra's damage step effect in the battle phase, which means they're going to lose their Chundra and they're going to lose their Chundra effect, which is going to make it a lot harder for them.
That's right. The Skull Guardian is an effect negation, which means it works in the damage step. This will be very interesting with Chandra, you definitely have to understand the damage step now.
Them to, you know, get into their synchro plays and stuff like that, and really get some good advantage. So I think Voiceless is pretty damn well situated, honestly. Now, that last one with Guardian is really just if you can afford to. Oftentimes, you'll have to use your negate a bit earlier with your Guardian, but still, I think Voiceless just has just everything it needs really for that matchup. Obviously, Droplet is a card, and Droplet will probably win this matchup most of the time, unless the hand is really bad. Droplet will most likely be winning, because, yeah, trap popping the field spell is good, but, you know, if they have, like, Pydra in hand and they had Droplet, they basically are going to win against Voiceless, so I guess that's something to keep in mind. Blessing can save you sometimes. You know, Blessing could let you ritual summon on opponent's turn and potentially, like, reestablish a Skull Guardian, depending on the situation, or even a Cerevis, so, you know, don't sleep on that, but overall, I still think this deck is going to be much better situated in this upcoming format as a nice going first option. Here, I'm just going to talk about...
I don't know. I like the points, and it's, good points, but it's very bad against Shifter. You don't want to play under Shifter, and it's not that great into a lot of hand traps. Often enough, one hand trap can stop the deck, and Tenpai will play multiple hand traps. You also play your in-engine Bestial Magna Mood, which is great against this. So I don't necessarily agree. You can also put this in the Rogue category.
You know, a deck that I really love, so Naturia. I think Naturia is going to be Rogue. I think it's going to be good, like pretty good. Naturia Beast is pretty good against Tenpai. Similar to Voiceless, though, we will lose to Droplet most of the time. Not completely, but pretty much completely. I think Naturia might start running the bug that stops battle phase. I forget what it's the stink bug. I think we might start running the stink bug for that.
Not quite sure whether you will want to run Droplet in Tenpai because you're playing Shifter and then Droplet can't activate. Then again, you could argue that you don't want to run Effect Veilers, right? So,
that battle phase effect, although...
Definitely craft 3 Ghost Ogres, guys.
100% sure, because they can just like negate artifacts in the battle phase using that synchro. But I mean, if they want to declare an attack with Chundra, we can like end the battle phase there. So, you know, potentially the stink bug could make a pretty big difference. So like, I'm just more so thinking like Naturia Beast plus Sunflower seems to be really, really good interruption for that deck. Then, you know, the ability to potentially get a stink bug on the field to force them to deal with it or to basically lose their battle phase. It all seems like tools that are really good to have. Not to mention now with Naturia Ragnarika, the consistency of Naturia went way up. And honestly, that Ragnarika trap, even though oftentimes it's just a pop 1, that's just enough pops to pop the field spell search. And so even if you don't have your Naturia Beast established yet, or if they Droplet your Naturia Beast, you can still stop the field spell with that Ragnarika trap. So I'm inclined to say
he's close to putting it into tier 2. I'm hearing it.
I'm inclined to say that Nature is going to be pretty good. Low-key, I think it might be top of Rogue, for at least my prediction list, by the way. Like, I'm not including that many decks on this list, so I'm not saying objectively the top of Rogue, but I'm saying low-key, it might be better than Centurion next format, but I'm going to leave it under. Centurion is still a really good deck if you ignore Tenpai. You know, Centurion's still pretty crazy. So, moving on here.
To be honest, I'm not the biggest expert on this deck, and yeah, Rogue category seems okay here.
We're going to do Tier Limit. I think Tier Limit gets a lot worse.
Yeah,
it gets a lot worse. Now, to be fair,
especially
not really the worst Tenpai matchup, so I might just be hoping or coping here more than
this is a bad Tenpai matchup.
Thing, but I do think Perlarino ban is like massive. A lot of people I feel underestimate that hit because they think it's just one card leaving Tier Limit, but really what they're losing.
It is very, very bad because you can then also no longer effectively use Trivikama and you cannot use the Rainbow Bridge anymore. Trivikama you can still use because you can search something else, but Rainbow Bridge of Salvation you won't be able to. So yeah, it's super bad. And then into the Shifters from Tenpai, it's just bad. And this is just a rando deck. So sometimes Tenpai won't even have to open hand traps to destroy. And then your normally with the Tenpai stuff, you don't destroy by card effect, but you just battle over stuff, and this doesn't trigger tier elements. I would put this in, yeah, maybe, I guess tier top of Rogue or tier 3. But yeah, he's right. It's not great.
6 traps that they wanted to mill, right?
And the Magnamut is in here.
6 of the best tier limit mills were the Trivikarma and the Crystal Beast trap because they would search your Perlarino and give you full tier combo.
Exactly.
So now, like your mills are not going to feel nearly as good. It's already lost so many good mills in tier.
I mean, you can still go Trivikarma and then grab the Saliak? No. You can still get to your Rhinoheart though.
And now you're losing even more. You can still get Rhinoheart pretty easily and go like normal Rhinoheart and set up Crime on turn 1. And I think Crime is going to be pretty damn good into this. Not to mention, you know, Tier is just a really solid deck in general. Like it has a lot.
Yeah, but for Crime you need a monster and then that's not always the case.
Of good options. Snow is still crazy. So it's not like Tier suddenly is bad. I think the ceiling of Tier is basically the same. It's just that their mills are I think they're going to feel a lot worse.
Yeah.
Losing 6, well, I guess it's 3 to 6 because not everyone was playing a 60 pile, but losing like 3 to 6 of your best mills for Tier limit, I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
I might be overestimating how big of a hit Perlarino is, but I personally genuinely think that it's a pretty damn big hit. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm coping, maybe I'm hoping because I'm really sick of seeing this deck. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you will see this way less, especially because of Shifter.
Actually gonna be pretty good. Who knows? Either way, let's move on here. The next one we're gonna do, this is gonna be an interesting one. So Dragon Link.
I like that he doesn't show the decks and then we are randomly surprised.
I think Dragon Link is back. I think it's coming back, baby. I mean, Borland forces the Tenpai player to summon the Samurai. What is it called? It's like the machine Samurai. Let me just go read it. Yeah, so it forces your opponent basically to summon Samurai Destroyer if they want to out the Borderland because it can't be destroyed by battle. Then you also have the fact that you can set up a Hieratic Seals. Seals can bounce the field spell when they try to activate it to search, so you can stop them from searching. So that's pretty good. Then you have your Borderland negate, which can't be responded to, which is also really.
He always makes points from the idea that you get your entire end board.
Solid, really strong.
Then it is great.
You have, potentially a Savage on top of that. You got back a lot of cards for Dragon Link.
But getting de-shifted and then hand trapped to death, this will not establish the end board.
Chaos Pace is going to 3. I think that's a big deal. That means you have basically, even though they only put Wyver Burster to 1, realistically, with how many darks you're running in this deck, you actually have like 4 copies of Wyver Burster just because of the Chaos Pace. So I think that's a pretty big deal. I think we might actually see Dragon Link, at least in Rogue tier, be good again. I think this might be a really, actually pretty solid pick. Okay. This is actually my opinion.
Rogue sounds
This is actually my opinion. Now that I think about it. These have pretty good matchups in
Rogue
Tenpai.
sounds correct.
Not the best ever. Droplet is Droplet. Droplet is going to beat most of the decks here. When Tenpai draws Droplet, you're going to be sad about it. It is what it is. And Tenpai's going to draw Droplet pretty often because we have Maxi in this game. So, that's what it is. But other than that, these two decks, I think, have a better matchup.
Yeah, Droplet, I guess, it's nice in Tenpai.
I think Dragon Link might actually be good.
Bet
Again,
under
I might be
Shifter,
hoping
though.
here, but I think it might actually happen. Let's move on, though. Let's move on. We're going to do Branded. Branded is definitely probably like a tier 2 deck. I think Branded is going to be pretty damn good. I mean, like, Branded has a, in this game, you don't get to, Gimmick Puppet lock. You don't get to Jowgen lock anymore because Jowgen is banned. But in the Tenpai matchup, you can literally just set up Rimbrum in the grave with Albaz in the grave, and you can just summon Albaz from the grave, during the battle phase, and summon Alba Lenitus using all your opponent's monsters. Because you just use all the dragons plus Albaz on the field.
Nah, I think Branded is not that great. I think it's tier 3.
So I think that play alone kind of insulates Branded from Tenpai.
It's not as good as the other ones in tier 2.
In the grave, and Tenpai is going to be more so focused on board breaking and stuff like that. Might be actually pretty hard. Like if you don't draw Called By, it's not going to be that easy to stop that Albaz play in the grave. So yeah, I think Branded is actually pretty well situated. I think it's going to stay good. All right, now moving on, we have Labyrinth, which I think is also going to be tier 2. Labyrinth is a very real deck, dude. Labyrinth has a lot of outs to Tenpai Labyrinth loves when their opponent makes them go first. As for like the tools that they have,
true.
If you go for Dimensional Barrier, that's going to force the Tenpai player to go into the significantly more susceptible line, which is to go for like Promethean Princess, since you're going to be locked out of synchro summoning.
Great.
And if you don't do that,
good point. I think Labyrinth is tier 2.
And Daruma Cannon actually plays around the unaffected clause of the Tenpai field spell because it makes the player flip all the cards face down, right? So Daruma Cannon is also a really, really strong out to Tenpai. You should not sleep on Daruma Cannon. Because of that, I think Labyrinth is going to be really well situated, and it might even be higher than this. Honestly, I was going to put it a bit higher. You know, we'll have to wait and see. I might be wrong about this. Also, like with ship,
Branded has to go one down, and then Labyrinth can stay here, I think.
If you're running around, you know, you might see Labyrinth want to play a more trap-focused variant instead of a furniture variant. I'm not sure about that. I'm not a Labyrinth player. So, yeah, I'm going to put Labyrinth, you know, at the bottom of tier 2 of my prediction list, but I think it might even be better than this, honestly. Like, I think Labyrinth is going to be pretty crazy well situated. You know, also, like, just the popping, being able to remove the field spell off the field. You know, the generic removal of Labyrinth is really, really good as well. Next up here, second to last, is just, this is not, I'm not even putting this on the list because I'm really unsure, but I more so just want to talk about it.
Buster Blader?
I saw a really cool Buster Blader mixed with Tenpai list. And yeah, Buster Blader will shut down all your opponent's dragons. So I think there might be a world where like Buster Blader becomes at least like playable, you know, just because of the popularity of Tenpai.
Sure.
And then like Tenpai making the Buster Blader player go first. And then
but not more than
you also
Rogue.
have Tenpai in the deck. So like if your opponent makes you go second, you could also just play Tenpai, which is obviously going to go crazy going second at the cost of having less board breakers and less hand traps and stuff like that, right? So it's pretty interesting. But just the fact that you shut down dragons completely with this deck, I think is pretty funny. So I think there is a possibility maybe that this deck, that Buster Blader Tenpai hybrid makes it to like playable here. I might have to try that out, or at least
playable,
hopefully someone's going to send it in deck showcase. I would really love to see it in action because I think it has some potential. I was looking at that list, I was like, yeah, low key, like this is not that. It's not a very inconsistent deck. You know, they get set up pretty consistently. They can do their thing. You know, so I don't know. Maybe, dude. Maybe I'm probably hoping about this one. I just wanted to mention it. I don't think I've mentioned Buster Blader once on this fucking channel in the almost 3 years that we've been doing Master Duel content. So I figured, you know, I'll just mention Buster Blader. I love Buster Blader. Okay. And the last deck here, I'm a little conflicted, you know, like part of me, it's Math Mech, by the way. It's Math Mech. I kind of want to put him here, but my beautiful face is...
Okay, let me finish this here. Okay, we have Math Mech here in tier 2. I definitely do... I do not really agree because under Shifter, this is very bad and some hand traps, a few hand traps can stop this. I would put this here in the tier 3 category. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think here of the list. As I already said, I normally agree more with him, but I definitely give you the Tenpai is the best deck going forward. I'm so ready. I'm so hyped. Let me know in the comments whether you are as excited as me. Thanks for being here, and we will see each other in the next one.